I'm Andrea Klim, and you are watching Turn to the Stars. And I just wanted to say, as I open the show today, that I've missed broadcasting the astrology news for the last couple of months. I'm so happy to be back on Turn to the Stars. And I'm recording from my beautiful new office here in Mount Dora, Florida, which is truly a very special place, as the signage says when you enter into this town. Today I'm going to be covering the new moon in Capricorn, which occurs on Tuesday, January 16th. That's next week at exactly 10:19 p.m. Eastern Standard. I do have a chart of this new moon right here, and it's a universal chart, and it tells us about the universal influences, meaning that energy that is affecting us all on a universal level. And as you've heard me talk about in past shows, an astrology chart is created by a question about a particular month, day, year, time, and I usually broadcast or bring information to you about the new moons or the eclipses or major planetary shifts that affect us and influence us. Here on Earth, we are surrounded by planets in our solar system, and they do affect us. So astrology is an incredible tool of knowing how to plan our lives. And I read something years ago from an astrologer that goes, he uses astrology to plan it. So I thought that was a neat way of talking about astrology. So going back to talking about the new moon here, you can actually see on this chart is right down here, and you can see that the moon and the sun and Venus are all together on this new moon, which is occurring at 26 degrees of Capricorn and 57 minutes. We actually have a whole cluster of planets in Capricorn here, which I'm going to be talking about in the course of today's show. And so the new moon occurs at exactly, as I said a minute ago, 26 degrees and 57 minutes in the constellation of Capricorn, and it's joined by Venus in Capricorn very closely, as you saw on the chart. This new moon brings to our awareness what our responsibilities are. It brings a focus to our business, to our work, to our careers, things we're focused on building in our lives that make a difference to others. There's a seriousness about this new moon due to Capricorn's influence. Whenever I think about Capricorn's energy, I think about the evolution of who we are and where we're headed out in this world we live in. If you think about the sign itself, there's, the symbol is a goat that is ever climbing to new heights in its life, and the tail of the goat is, the back end is not feet, it's a tail of a dolphin. So it is one of the most unevolved signs. It's ever climbing to new peaks of consciousness. And that's truly what I think about when I think about Capricorn energy, or anyone who's a Capricorn or has Capricorn energy in their chart. So it's one of the, as I said, it's ever evolving, ever climbing, striving to reach new peaks. Capricorn is never satisfied as it demands hard work, and is one of the teacher signs of the zodiac. So all of this energy is what's coming in as we approach this new moon in Capricorn. So if you're a Capricorn, if you're a Cancer, if you're a Libra, if you're an Aries, born around the 16th of any month, born around the 16th of January, born around the 16th of July, October, or April, those are all the cardinal signs. You will feel the effects of this new moon in your life for sure. Because we look at the degrees, and so if you have these, degrees in your chart, you're sure to have some new beginnings or things that are really brought into your focus. This new moon will influence you to focus on your status, making and creating further realistic directions. Venus in Capricorn alongside this new moon influences forming relationships with business-minded people who are influential in the venues you're interested in creating. And whenever I think about Capricorn energy, I think about government and those who have control. It's a sign of the rulers and the elite, and also of those who do the work. They roll up their sleeves and they get to work. historically, this new moon is parallel with April of 1829, which was a time when we notice on April 9th of 1829, Gansk, it was a dike. It was a dike that had flood waters that collapsed and killed 1,200 people. April 13th of 1829, the Roman Catholic Relief Act passed by the British Parliament. It was the culmination of the process of Catholic emancipation throughout the UK. April 25th, Charles Fremantle arrives in HMS Challenger off the coast of modern-day Western Australia prior to declaring the Swan River colony for the United Kingdom. April 28th of 1829, Dutch Parliament accepts new press laws. So you look at some of these historical events and look at what's happening today in our government and worldwide, and you will see the parallels. One of the things that I want to point out about this new moon is that on January 2nd, Uranus turned direct, and along with all the major outer planets who are also direct, they're all in a direct motion, meaning moving forward. They're not retrograde. And what this emphasizes is a lot of forward movement. It's a great time to move forward on any business, career project, or in any area of your life where you know it's time to take action. This type of forward movement is in alignment. So all these planets that are what I call power planets are in a direct motion. They're moving forward. It's highly unusual to see them all moving forward like this. And we have 3 months, basically till around March 9th, that we have the outer planets, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Mercury and Venus are also direct. So with all this direct motion, it does inspire powerful forward movement on all levels in our lives. So it is time to move forward with any business or personal projects. And again, this lasts until March 9th. Just prior to this new moon in Capricorn, the Sun and the Moon formed an uncomfortable squaring aspect with the new moon with this new moon in Capricorn, and this influences unexpected governmental expressions, which can err on the side of crazy with unexpected results. And the planet Uranus does bring upheavals. It brings awakening. It can also bring crazy, unexpected results. So we have this new moon just prior to it, like the 15th and the 16th of January, squaring Uranus. So it would be really good advice to err on the side of caution with anything that you want to express on a business level, and to really go slow. Take your time and consider other people's the changes that they're experiencing in their life. You're going to experience some delays, some slowdowns, so that should be expected. And this new moon is in the 5th house of this universal chart, and so expressions and recognition is highlighted along with things we personally create. And the square with Uranus and Aries indicates that caution needs to be used in relationships. I'd highly recommend to err on the side of caution in areas that are sensitive. Take time to consider others' values and the changes they're experiencing in their lives. Again, this energy is very strong on a universal level, the 15th and the 16th of January. On this new moon, we have 7 planets in cardinal signs. And I can show you what that looks like on the chart. So we have Saturn, Mercury, Pluto, the Moon, the Sun, and Venus, all in Capricorn, and we have Uranus in Aries. These are all cardinal signs, which are all highly suggestive of actions and activities. Cardinals like to be moving in some way. Capricorn likes to be moving and building and controlling things, structuring things, teaching things. Uranus likes to be moving and awakening the self, especially because it's in the sign of Aries. So we're going to have some real growth during this time with this new moon. So I would encourage you to just sort of realize that as we come into this time of this new moon. because, again, all these cardinal signs for activity and movement, I would advise you to take time to carefully consider what actions you will take, what goals you will push forward toward on this new moon due to the square between the new moon and Uranus. This square indicates some challenges to overcome and some delays to manage. So you might be saying, what does this new moon mean for me? Look at your chart. If you have your birth chart, if you don't, you can contact me at Andrea at Turn to the Stars, and I can provide that for you. But look at your chart. If you know how to identify where 26 degrees of Capricorn is, meaning look what house it's in or what area of your life does this new beginning occur. And you'll know the focus of this next new moon, this next month ahead. For instance, in this universal chart, it occurs in the 5th house, which is right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the 5th house, which is all about creativity, creative expressions, recognition for things we've created universally. The 5th house is all about the things we create from our heart and we're very proud of. And so there's an abundance of creativity and earthly energy around creation at this time. I'd say universally we need to be careful that we are creating in healthy ways which help others through times of change. Capricorn is typically more reserved because it's an earth sign. There's always a method or a structure that is being built when Capricorn energy is present. If you have any planets in your birth chart around 26 degrees, again, this is an important time of new beginnings. If you're a Virgo, if you're a Taurus, and your birthday is around the 16th of any month, probably the 13th through the 16th or the 16th through the 19th of any month, especially if you're a Taurus or you're a Virgo or a Capricorn, you will have some real wonderful things unfolding in your life. Great things that are hands-on, that you can personally put your own stamp on. So that's really important. New moons, again, as you've heard me say in other shows, are a great time for setting intentions. So it's very helpful to know where this falls in your chart. Astrology is a great tool that raises our consciousness. This new moon is actually our first one of 2018, our first new moon, and it will help you. It's actually going to be setting the tone for the new year. We should be aware that due to the degrees of the new moon, it has the capacity to be a precursor of some new themes starting in government areas, large corporations, or in business sectors that are important precursors of events that will be unfolding in 2010. So whatever you're seeing occurring on this new moon is actually a precursor to events that will be unfolding by 2010. So it's important to be aware of what we're seeing happening around us. This new moon will be, the new moons in 2020 will be in much earlier degrees by that time, so this is truly a time of creating new themes that will be very important toward our future in 2020. The strong square we're seeing on this new moon to Uranus could be a precursor to some revolutionary events. Uranus indicates freedom, and all this Capricorn energy on this new moon indicates there's a strong focus on control from government and law enforcement organizations. It's likely we could see some uprisings and freedom of speech rallies forming. Uranus's energy connects us to our super consciousness, and so we could be getting lots of information intuitively during this new moon, which we should be pondering what to do with. The square between Uranus and Capricorn at this time could have us all looking closely at ourselves in the mirror, asking ourselves, who am I? If my title in this world is removed, who am I at the root of my being? So that's a really great question to be asking yourself. Who are you? What is your status in this world? But even beyond that, what's at the root of who you are? Beyond that status, who are you really? This new moon is very important because it's a precursor to the first lunar eclipse of the new year, which occurs on January 31st. So this is a great time to be taking a good look at what you want to build in this new year. The Sabian symbol highlighted by 27 degrees Capricorn is one of pilgrims climbing the steep steps leading to a mountain shrine. And Sabian symbols are actually symbols of, historically, there was a psychic that worked alongside with an astrologer, and she actually focused on each degree of the zodiac, and this was actually the picture that she saw in her mind's eye associated with this 27 degrees of Capricorn. So it's kind of like if you were to picture the symbology of this degrees and its effects to us. So my depiction, my interpretation of this 27 degrees is there's a lot of discipline required at this new moon cycle as it begins. We're experiencing a climbing to new heights of consciousness as a whole. We're taking steps to a new plateau of being. This is a great time for setting your sights and intentions around the goals you'll be achieving this year. It's a great time for joining the groups of people who are of like mind and working together to achieve your common goals. Whenever I think of Capricorn, I remember that there's two types of Capricorns. Those who build and create only for themselves and their own gain, and those who say, this is what I have, how can I use it to teach and help others to succeed? That's the evolution of Capricorn. Earth consciousness, Capricorn's an earth sign, so earth consciousness is raised at this time. You've got all these planets in Capricorn, and so earth consciousness is raised, and it's indicative of restructuring. Capricorn, Saturn in Capricorn, Pluto in Capricorn. You've seen me write an article that I put out around the holidays, which was indicating that 2018 was going to be many structural changes in the world. So it's a great time to take steps to be responsible for our earth home and to do things that support her health, such as recycling and reusing what we can. Capricorn looks at materials of the earth and says, how can I use this? How can I reuse this? It's the sign who's very thrifty, very careful, and very responsible with its belongings. And I also, when I think about Capricorn, I think about the old methods, the old techniques, and how useful they still are in our lives. Today, I just want to tell you a little story. I went downtown, being that this new moon is in the 5th house, and this energy is already applying. I went downtown here in Mount Dora, Florida, and my day was made very, very happy. I went to visit my friend Kate at Magical Meat Boutique, and I stopped to talk with her about working on in her train, which they've remodeled it. It's an old material thing that they've remodeled, and they're reusing it, and it's just a lot of fun. So I went there to talk to her about offering astrology and spiritually insightful readings, and she asked me, she said, she smiled and she said, can you come inside? And she pointed to the wall where she hung up the 3 hearts that I made her that say, this is the heart of Mount Dora. And they're all with sparkly, blingy material, and it was just so pretty. My heart was so warmed and touched that she loved her Christmas gift so much that she hung it up in her restaurant for everyone to see. So I just wanted to say a great big thank you to Kate. It's true, Magical Meat is the heart of Mount Dora. So, you know, the 5th house is about heart and heart-centered things that are occurring in our lives. So I thought I'd share that story with you. And to conclude today's show, I also want to take some time to share some great wisdom sent to me every morning. I have a friend, Ken Berry, who lives over in the Villages, who I met a couple months ago downtown at my friend Lynn's store under the cherry blossom. And he sends me, he's just a really nice man, and he just loves helping people. So every morning he sends me words of wisdom. And I find it very valuable and helpful in my day, so I wanted to share it and pass it on. I think you'll find it valuable as well. So I'm going to share some of that with you right now. And these are all actually quotes by Socrates. And the first one is, "I cannot teach anybody anything. I can only make them think." The second one, "Wonder is the beginning of wisdom. Be kind to everyone you meet, because you don't know if they're fighting a hard battle. He who is not contented with what he has would not be contented with what he would like to have." Again, these are all by Socrates. "Be slow to fall into friendship, but when you're in, continue firm and constant. Sometimes you put walls up not to keep people out, but to see who cares enough to break them down. Let him who would move the world first move himself." And, Socrates was a great philosopher. And I want to say thank you to Ken for sharing these with me every morning, because I know they come from his heart. The other thing I want to do, which is very heart-centered also today, is to thank all the really special people in my life who are supporting me as I move forward with some exciting goals I've set for myself and Turn to the Stars in 2018. I'm so excited to be back talking to all of you. So please stay tuned for my next broadcast, and it's going to be about the first eclipses of 2018. The first being a full moon lunar eclipse that's occurring on January 31st. And the next one would be a solar eclipse that's occurring in February. So I'm going to go deep into what those changes are going to unfold for us on a universal level. And I just wanted to remind you, it's a great time to get your astrology reading. Eclipses are major markers of huge changes that are occurring in our lives. And these coming up are especially connected with 19 years ago, which was 1999. Whatever you were doing at that time in your life, in 1999, this particular eclipse is the same degrees, in the same constellations, the same zodiac signs. But I could tell you a little story quickly about eclipses. I was in a class years ago in an NCGR, and the seminar was actually on eclipses. And the astrologer said, when you think about eclipses, think about the 19-year cycle that they run. So whatever you began 19 years ago, you're going to go to another plateau of that same type of influence in your life, with a lot more wisdom, with a lot more knowledge. So she said, think about it that way. So this is a very important these are very important eclipses. They are major markers of change to unfold in our lives. So I want to just tell you all, until the next show, take good care that you be well. And in Latin we say cura ut valias. And again, it means take care that you be well. And always remember to turn to the stars, and you'll find your answers there. Take good care. I'll see you next time.